I just want to make 3 points. In a discourse on the 23rd of November, 1994, Swami reminded everyone that the food that one consumes determines one's thoughts. Also said that eating meat extinguishes the seed of great kindness. And so there is, at least in Buddhism and Hinduism, a strong belief that the food that one eats affects the body and mind. And so I think it's right that when we speak about being vegetarian, this aspect of holistic vegetarianism needs to be put at the forefront because the objective is not just a humanitarian objective, but one to, as we said earlier, transform one's hearts and minds. I want to add to that first point by reminding ourselves of what Swami said, by referring to a short video I saw on YouTube recently, and it was a question that a lady put to Sadhguru, who many of you would have heard of, about being vegetarian. And he approached it somewhat differently without emphasizing the importance solely on the importance of not eating meat. And he actually spent quite a lot of time about how even plants are sentient beings. And he gave the example of how in a forest, when an elephant comes and feeds off a tree, the tree is able to give off chemicals which other trees in that forest are able to pick up and know that there is danger afoot. And when the elephant or the creature that comes, they're able to give off chemicals to make the leaves bitter. And the point he was making, as I understood it, was that even plants are living creatures. Now, he said that one has to eat as a human being, and it is the very nature of the food cycle that we will eat those plants. But one thing he said is because they are sentient beings, these plants, one has to be careful not to eat for one's pleasure and not to enjoy taking life, even the life of the plant. And so one must eat just to survive. Now, that was a very interesting thing he said because one always has this discussion around not eating meat. And he drew attention to the existence of plants. And that was something that caught my attention because I think last year in one of our study circles, presented a very thorough, wonderful presentation about how even plants are sentient beings. But what I took away also is even in eating, being vegetarian, one has to be conscious of the fact that one is unavoidably taking a life, and therefore one must be very modest and conscious. And even eating has to be eaten um, without excessiveness and without eating for pleasure. And that sort of takes one to um, what even Swami used to say, uh, eat to live and don't live to eat. I thought that was an interesting point Sadhguru made, and draws our attention to plants also and the importance of moderation in eating and not eating for pleasure. And so both these points that Swami makes, that's made in Buddhism and that Sadhguru was making, draws attention and emphasis to the oneness of all creation, to that unity in creation, where we are conscious of the fact that the animals are living beings, the and the plants are sentient beings too, and we have to be aware of that. Yet the last point I want to make is I've always somewhat amused when people say it's very difficult to become a vegetarian in one's diet, because my experience is becoming vegetarian in one's diet is actually the easy thing. The difficult part for me has always been being vegetarian in one's thoughts. And Swami also used to say, we have to, and he used to say we have to, um, everything that we take in through our senses must be pure. And so that is what I find actually to be the greater challenge. How do I always have good thoughts? How do I always have pure thoughts? Um, and that I think is really the struggle on the spiritual life. And being vegetarian in one's diet is a means towards assisting that, because as Swami said, eating meat leads to demonic tendencies. So it's not just enough, I say, to eat vegetarian, non-meat food, but also in what we see, because seeing leaves great impressions on our minds. In what we hear, we must also be conscious that we take in vegetarian things, so to speak. And that brings me to the point of nurturing that purity in everything we think, we see, we hear. And ultimately, that is what the Jyoti meditation that Swami gave was leading us towards. Help me see what is good, hear what is good, speak what is good. So I was very, very pleased that the topic refers to holistic vegetarianism, because it is not just one aspect of what we take into our mouth, however important that is. And I was also very pleased with the introduction, where there was a reference to transforming one's hearts and minds. So that is what I have to share. Swami's point about the importance of not eating meat, Sadhguru's points about reminding ourselves that even plants are sentient beings and we should eat only to live and not for pleasure. And this point about everything that we take in to all our senses should be vegetarian. So that's all I wish to say. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I wish the presenter a very good presentation, and I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm sure you'll all learn a lot. Sadam.
Sairam, thank you, Guru Ashok. Okay, so now is the start of the webinar. So we'd like to welcome Sister Shanti or Sister Chantal Hernandez, who studied at the, please excuse my Spanish, Universidad de Valle de Atemejac. She's a licensed and practicing nutritionist in Mexico and active member of the Serve the Planet team. She's also a human values teacher and former president of a Sai Center in Colima. Today, Sister Shanti will deliver a webinar titled Now is the Time, a journey to be a holistic vegetarian. Over to Sister Shanti.
Sairam, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Sister Talai, and thank you, Uncle Ashok, for your beautiful and very inspiring words. So today, the Serve the Planet Committee, we are presenting Now It's the Time Journey to be a Holistic Vegetarian. And in this presentation, we would like to introduce you to a step-by-step program. And this will be learn how to improve your diet and transform your life. So now let's see a program overview. Number 1, expand awareness of the concept of food. Number 2, explore a step-by-step program on becoming a vegetarian. Number 3, learn how to balance nutrients. Number 4, understand how our eating habits impact the planet. And number 5, share the message with our family and community. I encourage everyone to take notes, and at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A, very, very fast session. Okay, so now the first question is, what motivates us to improve our diet? So will anyone would like to share their thoughts with us? You can just put your mic on or use the chat box. Okay, anyone who would like to share what is their motivation to be here in the session today? I will just wait a minute so you can type or raise your hand. We all have different motivations. Some of us have a motivation because of our physical health. Okay, here we have. Okay, this Kartika from Australia says, number 1, to live Swami's message. Number 2, our health. Number 3, to be of service to planet Earth. Yes, that's beautiful because first of all, Swami's message is for us to be healthy and to be a vegetarian. So number 2 and number 3 come just along with number 1. Okay, so anyone would like to share another thought? What inspires us to improve our diet? And by diet, we mean the food we take. We mean what we see, what we listen to. Okay, so I will just move forward. So now that we understand, if we understand our motivation, we can start exploring the environmental impact of our food choices. These charts are very, very impressive when you look at them and you see the food impact, the carbon footprint of food like beef, lamb, farmed prawns, chocolate. I mean, chocolate was very, very impressive for me because everyone likes chocolate. So as you can see, chocolate is at the top, is one of the most contaminating foods, and I was thinking about that a lot. So I thought it's not only meat, it's also chocolate. It requires more water to produce versus vegetables and grains, and emits more greenhouse gases to produce. Are there other impacts? Of course, there are other environmental impacts we are not even aware of. So it's very beautiful when we can look at these charts with an open mind and see that our food choices can really change the environment, and if we choose good food with a low impact, this will also lead us to right conduct and to healthy food habits and to improve our environment. So here we also see the environmental impact again of our food choices. Cattle farming also contributes to deforestation, habitat loss, soil degradation, and pollution of soil and groundwater with antibiotics and pesticides. So this is like a lot going on. You see, cattle farming has a lot going on, has suffering, has yes, antibiotics, pesticides, soil degradations. It's just too much. So we have to be aware of what our food choices are leading us to. So now there is another question. So why make changes to improve your food choices? This is our motivation. We want to improve our environmental impact. We want to improve our health, and it aids us on the spiritual path. So I would like to ask to all of you, what changes can I make? Is there anyone who wants to share? I will just give you a minute so you can write on the chat box. What changes can I make? I was thinking that I could start eating less chocolate, or cut it for good, because it's really amazing that chocolate has such a high impact in the environment. I am already vegan, but I can always improve. So is there anyone who wants to share what changes can I make? Any change? Okay, so now we can write it down or think about it through the webinar. Okay, let's read what Swami beautifully has to say to us. People who want to develop themselves along the path of the Atma must have good health, and for this purpose, the control of food is essential. By eating clean food, we can get a clean mind, and through a clean mind, we can get a clear idea of the goal. Through such a clean concept of the Atma, we will be able to get rid of the illusion of Maya. Through this method, the knot that is present in our heart will open up. And this is the basis for getting a divine vision. We should not think that the importance that is being given to the aspect of food is unnecessary. For all types of yoga, pranayama, niyama, pratyahara, samadhi, etc., correct type of food is the most important basis. So in this message is so beautifully, Swami says to us so beautifully that the knot that is present in our heart will open up if we only pay attention on what we are eating. And if we are aiming to practice any kind of yoga to obtain the divine vision, to get rid of the illusion of Maya, we should really, really pay attention at what food we are taking. Okay, so next slide. Now here is the question again. What is the role of food in generating physical energy? We all know that food generates physical energy, but does anyone know how is this happening? Would anyone like to share an opinion? Someone said earlier we could change through consuming less processed food. Yes, that is a very good idea. Okay, I'm going to share with you what is the role of the food in generating physical energy. Okay, there is someone. It says sattvic food generates sattvic energy. Yes, that is true. That is actually true because the food, the quality of the food and the quantity of the food is directly related into our sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic tendencies. Okay, so here, how carbohydrates are converted into energy. This is a picture of our digestive system. And when we eat carbohydrates, the body breaks it down into simple sugars, such as glucose, and absorbs them into the bloodstream. As the sugar level rises in our body, the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is needed to move glucose from the blood into the cells, where it provides energy. Glucose is the energy currency of the body. Proteins and fats are also converted to energy. Proteins break down into amino acids, while fats break down into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, I want to say two things that are very important. First is that glucose, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins provide energy to the organisms. Both fats and proteins are converted into sugar as well as carbohydrates. So in the end, everything is sugar because sugar breaks down in a process called glycolysis. And this glycolysis process also with the respiration process will combine and will provide the body the energy it's needed for performing all the activities in the day and also for sleeping and repairing the cells at night. So this is the first important thing. The second important thing is that our stomach is secreting chlorhydric acid. So chlorhydric acid comes out from the stomach to break down, to do the first breakdown of the food in digestion. But this acid has to be, it will go through our intestine and the pancreas need to release insulin. So the more chlorhydric acid the stomach is releasing is the more insulin you need. So this is very important because when we take foods like meat or processed foods, we need more acid to break down these foods. So the more acid you are using and you are releasing in the stomach is the more insulin you need. So when you are forcing the pancreas this way, and also the liver, because the liver has to take all the toxins from the food, and also the kidneys, because the kidneys have to purify the blood. So you are like forcing all your entire digestive system just because we are not choosing the right food. So when we choose to eat a vegetarian food or vegan food. It is much easier for our organism, for our digestive system, to break it down and take the nutrients, and is not that contaminating for the blood. So these are two very important points. Number one, everything turns into sugar, and the glycolysis process in combination with the respiration process gives us energy. And number two, the more processed foods and meat I take is the more chlorhydric acid I need and the more insulin I need, and so all my digestive system is suffering somehow. Okay, so here Swami is a message again, and he says, the body and the mind are mightily interdependent. No one can afford to neglect it. As the food, so the mind. As the mind, so the thought. As the thought, so the act. Food is an important factor which determines the alertness and sloth, the worry and the calm, the brightness and the dullness. And there is a very beautiful passage in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says to Arjuna that every time you take food, every time you sit in a table to eat and enjoy a meal, number one, you should offer it to God, because it's a sin not to offer to God the food that comes from Him. And number two, Krishna says also to Arjuna that the first thing in ourselves that is being nurtured is the mind. So he says you should be very, very careful in the food you are taking, because the first impression is the mind, is the one who is eating first, so to say. So I like how Swami is here talking about the body and the mind as interdependent, because one affects the other. You cannot say you have a healthy body and not have a healthy mind, and vice versa. So we should be very aware of the food we are taking, because it is also nurturing the mind. Okay, here in the next slide, I'm going to explain a little bit the macronutrients. Food is one of the most important sources of energy and essential to help the body function properly. The food we eat is composed of the following key components, some of which provide the body the energy it requires, but all of which are important for good health and well-being. Carbohydrates, body's main source of energy. It can also be converted into proteins. Carbohydrates are giving us 4 calories per gram, and when our body is constructing, let's say hair or nails, or is repairing any wound, then the carbohydrates are converted into proteins. And this is the regeneration process, and this process takes place every day. Proteins, they provide amino acids which make most of the cell structure, including cell membranes. Proteins are also hormones, and they are very important, and also neurotransmitters. So they are very, very important for our nervous system. Proteins are giving us 3.8 calories per gram. Fats, they give energy and protect organs, absorb other nutrients, and making steroids and hormones. It has the highest caloric content. Fat are helping to build steroids and hormones, but essentially steroids and hormones are proteins, and fat is giving us 9 calories per gram. There are 2 kinds of fats, the saturated fats and the unsaturated fats. So we need a very, very, very small percent of saturated fats, and the highest percent should be from unsaturated fats, which are helping for the cholesterol transportation and are taking care of our heart. Vitamins and minerals are present in trace amounts in the food. They are essential for normal metabolism, growth, development, and cell function. They work together with enzymes and other substances that are necessary for a healthy life. Vitamins and minerals are not giving us energy, only carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Vitamins are very small components that help the body together with the enzymes to process carbohydrates, proteins, and fats and bring the nutrients, extract the nutrients from them and bring them into the bloodstream. And minerals come along with water many times, and they are essential for hydration. Water makes up 60% of our body weight. It helps regulating body temperature and maintaining other bodily functions. Our body needs more water every day than any other nutrient. So it's very important that when we think in hydrating ourselves, we should think in water, not in juice or milk or coffee or any other beverage. So the beverage we should think about all the time is water. And so says Swami that we should drink plain water and not just any beverage that comes across. Now here we have the healthy eating plate. This is a very accurate tool for us to understand a healthy eating plate. And I love it because we can just take any plate in our kitchen and just draw these lines, and this will be just enough for us to make a balanced meal. So if we can understand this properly, we don't need to count calories. We just need to follow it very closely and understand it. So in the left side, we can see oils. It says use healthy oils like canola and olive oil. Olive oil is protecting the heart. It has this protective characteristic. So olive oil is a very good and healthy choice for cooking, on salad, and at the table. And let's avoid trans fat. Let me just make clear that olive oil is not for cooking. Canola oil is for cooking, or perhaps coconut oil, but not olive oil. Olive oil should go only in salad, okay? Never for cooking, never. And then the more vegetables and the greater variety, the better. Potatoes and French fries do not count. Potatoes and French fries have a lot of starch, so they are carbohydrates. They are not in the vegetable side. Vegetables provide us fiber and also vitamins and minerals, so it's very important for us to take vegetables from different colors and textures. Eat plenty of fruit of all colors. Fruit has a lot of sugar, so it has to be you have to be careful eating fruit. It's very healthy because it has a very easily it has a sugar that is very easy for digestion. That this is fructose. So fructose goes into the cells without insulin. It's the only sugar that can go into the cell without insulin. So fruit is an excellent choice. But also fruit, too many fruit, it's going to bring up the sugar in our bloodstream. It's going to make a peak in the sugar. So we have to eat more vegetables and a little bit less of fruit. Now here in the right side, we have water. You have to drink water all day. And we have to limit other beverages like tea and especially coffee. Also dairy and juice to one serving each per day. I just recently read in one of Swami's discourses that milk should not be taken like pure milk, but you should take half glass of milk and half glass of water. He said that was the proper way to drink milk if we choose to. And let's avoid sugar in drinks. We are we are eating sugar in the whole grains and in the fruit, but never in the beverages. Eat a variety of whole grains like whole wheat, bread and pasta, brown rice, whole wheat, etc. And let's limit the refined grains like white rice and white bread. And also pasta sometimes is very refined. Cookies and all that, we should avoid that. Then under whole grains, we have healthy protein. So we're going to choose beans, peas, lentils, and tofu. Also, tempeh is a very good choice. Limit highly refined proteins found in vegetarian burgers and sausages and other processed. So for protein, every time this is like the big issue. Like when you eat meat and you want to stop eating meat, everyone thinks about the protein. But it's actually really simple. The protein is you can find protein in so many foods, like all the beans, the tofu. Yes, you can find protein also in dairy. So when you are turning from um, eating meat, when you are switching from eating meat to not eating meat, you could use dairy also as a protein. With the time, you are also substituting dairy because it has a lot of saturated fats. Okay, so now we are going to see this plate. We could just, as I said, take any plate in our kitchen and draw these lines. And here we have in vegetables, in breakfast, because of course the plate has to be different in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like the whole grains, the protein have to be different. Vegetables and fruits are pretty much the same, but whole grains and healthy protein and fats should not be the same. So in breakfast, we suggest carrot juice or green juice. In fruits, we suggest any seasonal fruit or natural marmalades and spreads. In healthy protein, I always suggest in breakfast yogurt, coconut yogurt. It's like the best protein. Nuts, but not too many nuts. In whole grains, I suggest cereals, bread, toast, oats. This depends on our diet, on our regular diet. And the beverages, it could be water, tea, coffee, but just one cup of coffee, not more. And in the healthy fat, we could use avocado, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, peanut butter, tahini. Now, when we switch to lunch, again, we can use any vegetables, all colors, all textures, raw or cooked. In fruits, we always use seasonal fruits. In healthy protein, we can incorporate beans, tofu, soya, hummus, lentils, broad beans, chickpeas. As you see in breakfast, you are having yogurt or nuts, and in lunch, you're having beans and tofu and soya. So this is how it's a bit different. In beverages, you can drink water, coffee, tea, citrus drinks. In whole grains, you can use pita bread, tortilla, rice, arepas, wheat pasta. And in healthy fat, you use avocado, tahini, olive oil, chia seed. There are many options. In dinner, I always say that dinner should be like a snack. It's not like a complete meal. it should be a snack. So we can start by eating less at dinner, and that will improve a lot our health and also the way our body is repairing at night. Because at night, the body should not struggle with digestion. It should rather rest. So in dinner, vegetables, again, raw or cooked vegetables, mushrooms are a very good choice. Um, Fruits, neutral fruits. Okay, I'm hearing some echo. It's okay. Okay, in fruits, neutral fruits like apple, pear, papaya, and this is very important. At night, we should eat neutral fruits, not citric fruits, because if we are eating citrics, we will struggle with digestion. So we have to eat neutral fruits, so digestion goes easier. In healthy protein, we could have just like nuts or lentils. In whole grains, we can have a bit of rice or a bagel or one tortilla or pita bread, but not that much, okay, because it's a lot of sugar to break down. And in healthy fat, again, almonds or avocado, perhaps a little bit of cheese, but only a little bit. So now we are going to see 3 complete meals per day, what to include. At first, you have to do 3 complete meals per day. Then, with the practice, breakfast and dinner are turning more like into snacks, and you will be only completing 1 meal per day. But this is with the time, at your own pace. So in breakfast, we should include whole wheat or rye toast with nut butter, black beans, tortilla, tea, citrus juice, plain yogurt, fruit, nuts, oatmeal. At lunch, the type of carbohydrate is very important, not the amount. We can use vegetable sources other than potatoes, or it could be boiled potatoes, but never fried French fries or something. Fruits, whole grains, and beans are very much very healthier. Use healthy oils and healthy sources of fat. What are the healthy sources of fat? Like avocado, olive oil, almonds, sunflower seeds, etc. In dinner, eat with your family or friends, relax, eat slowly. Yes, this is very important to eat slowly. Fruits and fiber. Tea is very good for digestion and for sleeping. Nuts, soy, almonds, oat milk, and vegetables. Now let's see what not to include, what to avoid. In breakfast, we should avoid eggs, donuts, croissants, waffles, meat, any fast food, fatty and salty food. Box processed cereals. This is very important. When we want to take a cereal in the breakfast, it should be a natural cereal, never a box cereal. Skip breakfast. This is also very important because it's associated with increase in the risk of obesity and also heart attacks. So we should never skip breakfast. In lunch, we should avoid sugar beverages, diet or low-fat products and food, hydrogenated oils, meat and processed meats, and also limit milk and dairy. Limit juice to small glass per day. In dinner, we should avoid eating too much fats, cheese, eating alone, stimulants like coffee, black tea, alcohol, chocolate, bread, and a whole serve plate. As I said, dinner should be much lighter. We should eat half in dinner. And also eating alone because there are many studies that say that people who dine alone are prone to depression. Not everyone, of course, but if you feel like you're having dinner and you're feeling sad, it's very important that you get some company or read something that you like, or you just try to cheer up yourself because this is very associated to depression. Okay, so now we are moving on and how to schedule food. This is sometimes a very big issue because when I talk to people as a nutritionist, they always say, I don't have any time to cook. I don't have time to put together this very, very good meal. And I always say, if you dedicate 2 hours Sunday to cook, let's say some lentils, some beans, some soya, some rice, and then you make a little stock in your fridge. This could help you a lot to put together a good meal with fresh vegetables and salads and whole grains and good protein through the week. You know, you just have to organize yourself, but it's quite simple. So in putting together the food, we are first starting with a morning tea. After the morning tea, like 15 minutes later, we are having breakfast. Then after breakfast, 2 or 2.5 hours later, we're having the first snack. Again, 2 hours later, we are having lunch. 2 hours or 2.5 hours later, we are having the second snack. And 20 minutes before going to bed, we are having dinner. So it's like eating every 2.5 hours or 3 hours at first. The key is not to eat much. If you are following this rhythm, like with the tea and the breakfast and the snacks and everything, then you don't need a high quantity of food. So we are having snacks between the meals. According Harvard Medical School, this is a very good idea. And now I'm going to talk about the snacks. 7 ways to snack smarter, according to the Harvard Medical School. So the first one is go for the grain. Whole grain snacks like whole grain low salt pretzels or tortilla chips or high fiber cereals. This is a very, very good choice. Number 2, bring back the breakfast. Example, a slice of whole grain toast topped with a nut butter. Low sugar granola could also work. Number 3, try a high-low combination. Combine a small amount of healthy fat like peanut butter with something very light. Example, apple slices, or it could be carrots or broccoli or Number 4, go nuts. Salted nuts. It's very important that they are unsalted. Almonds, walnuts, peanuts, roasted pumpkin seeds, cashews, filberts, etc. But everything in moderation. Number 5 will be the combo snack. Try to have more than just one micronutrient. Try whole grain crackers with some low-fat cheese. Number 6, it will be snack mindfully. Don't eat your snack while doing something else. It's very important to sit down and take a break, 5-minute break, and just enjoy the snack. And the last one, will take it with you. Think ahead and carry your snack in your purse or in a small lunchbox. Don't turn in desperation to the candy bars in the workplace school machine. So if you think you're not going to be able to buy a healthy snack, just take it with you. This is the best choice. Now we have here a suggested step-by-step guide. We suggest to follow the steps one by one, and you can spend 1 week or 2 or 3 or perhaps a month in every step, and when you complete the first step, then you can switch to the second step. Everything at your pace and, of course, enjoying it. Number 1 will be cut on meat and use a plant-based protein. For this, the Harvard Medical School has a lot of suggestions in how to cut on meat. And we, the Serve the Planet team, we just suggest to use a plant-based protein, which is very, very simple. Just switch meat for soya or tempeh, seitan, tofu, anything that works as a protein but is plant-based. Number two will be cut on refined sugars. These refined sugars are affecting very much our nervous system, and of course they represent a risk for obesity and for heart diseases. Number three, cut out processed foods and frozen foods. Oh, we have a question here. Let me see. Okay, it says, can we use coconut sugar instead? Okay, I haven't seen coconut sugar, but I will check it and I will let you know. I'm not sure how healthy is it. Okay, three, it was cut out processed foods and frozen foods. Swami says that foods that are frozen, they become tamasic, like immediately they become tamasic foods. Number four, cut out fried food and junk food. Of course, this is also very, very important. Number five, reduce dairy intake. Opt for plant-based milk and cheese if and when it's possible. Of course, the dairy intake, when you are switching to a vegetarian diet for the first time, the dairy is very important because it's going to be a source of protein and fat and also carbohydrates, because milk has the three micronutrients, has also carbohydrates. This is lactose. Lactose is the sugar of the milk. So it's a complete meal, and it's a very important nutrient. But when you understand that also the dairy industry is very contaminating and that the animals are suffering, then you would like to switch to plant-based options. We recently learned that almond milk is also very contaminating. So perhaps coconut milk or soy milk is the best choice, and also tofu, that is like soy cheese. Number six, avoid genetically modified foods. Yes, as much as we can. Number seven, avoid excess condiments like onion and garlic. Because we know that onion and garlic, they are getting in the way of the spiritual path. So we have to avoid them eventually. Reduce the ecological footprint of your food, number eight. Number nine, buy ethically sourced, seasonally and locally grown food. And number 10, get closer as much as possible to a healthy and environmentally friendly diet. Practice moderation with food consumption. So I'm going to explain a little bit this methodology. As I say, when we cut out meat, we just switch it to lentils, mushrooms, seitan, and we begin a vegetarian journey. This is a very beautiful journey, a very mindful journey, and we get to connect with ourselves and with the nature. In cutting refined sugars, let's just substitute them with sweet fruits and also homemade cookies, for example. This is a very good choice. Cut out processed and frozen foods. Just put together salads or make a quick rice or pasta at home, and that will also work very good. When we have to work and we don't have like much time for cooking, we could just cook the pasta or the rice or the lentils like in the weekend and heat them when we are going to eat them. But the salad and the fruits, they should always be fresh, like the vegetables and the fruits. Half of the plate that is vegetables and fruits should always be fresh. Cut out fried food and junk food. Use whole grains like oats, wheat, also potatoes and other starches. Reduce the dairy intake, opt for the plant-based milk and cheese when it's possible, but then you use almond or soy oat milk, tofu or almond cheese. You just have to switch it. Avoid genetically modified foods. Yes, here, this will answer your question. This will be read labels and prefer organic products. You can go to any supermarket and there is like a stand that says organic or bio or eco. And there are like many labels for that, and so you just go directly there and see which products are available. You could also grow a home garden and harvest your own food as much as you can. There are many home gardens that can be put together like very simple, and it's also a beautiful and spiritual practice. Avoid excess condiments, onion and garlic. Instead of using too much salt or sugar in foods, just try to enjoy its natural flavor. And we can use another spices to flavor it instead of onion and garlic. Reduce the carbon footprint of your food. Consume local food so the emissions generated by transport and by the food industry are reduced. Buy ethically sourced, seasonal, and locally grown food. Buy food from companies that treat their workers fairly, as their thoughts and feelings influence our minds through the food. So this is so important. I want to say something very quickly. I was recently buying tomatoes at a local store at my city, and I noticed that every time I was cooking, I start getting angry, and I didn't know why. It was so unbelievable because I just start like chopping the vegetables and I started getting angry. So I was going through Swami's words in my mind, and then I thought, why am I getting angry? So I think about it, and I said, okay, I'm buying tomatoes in this new store. So I went back to the store and I pay attention to the workers, and they were all angry. They were like shouting and yes, getting mad at everyone. So I stopped buying tomatoes at that place and start buying in another place. And then the anger just vanished. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. So I think this is what Swami is talking about. Get closer as much as possible to a healthy and environmentally friendly diet. Practice food moderation. And for this, Swami says, man should realize that there should be no excessive indulgence in any desire, whether it be food or other necessities. Just that Uncle Ashok shared with us, we are eating just to survive and not for pleasure. Now, I want to share with you the different food and the different impacts. We can see here in the chart with the green bars, the land use, with the orange bars, the gas emission, and with the blue bars, the fresh water consumption. And we can see beef, and beef has a very, very, very high land use, gas emission, and fresh water consumption. So this is very important to take in account that we should cut on red meat immediately because it's impacting in a very negative way our planet. Yes, also to mention that animals are suffering, and in the same way we are suffering. So as the people that were selling the tomatoes, they were mad and they were suffering in their minds, and I was suffering as well. So this is like the same logic for every food we consume. Along with varying impacts on human health, food also have different environmental impacts. As shown in the figure below, the production of animal-based food tends to have higher greenhouse gas emissions than producing plant-based food. Any dairy and red meat stand out for their disproportionate impact. Beyond emissions, it is also important to know that food production places an enormous demand on natural resources, as agriculture is a major contributor to deforestation, species extinctions, and freshwater depletion and contamination. Okay, so we have to be very, very aware of this impact because we are not living just by ourselves. We are coexisting in the planet, and we are part of everything and everyone. So every choice we make is impacting directly the planet where we live, therefore it's impacting us. So for this, we are proposing a methodology of 10 weeks. As I say, you could just take the steps one step per week, but always at your own pace. Number one, adhere to the suggested step-by-step guide, which will be available by our team. Number two, write down your daily needs. This is such a great practice. Whenever I give a workshop or any masterclass, I always suggest people to write down their meals because you are not aware of everything you are eating. And then when you write your meals and you classify and you say, okay, which of these meals are sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, and which of these meals are a good choice or a bad choice, or you see the schedule, like you had breakfast at, I don't know, 11 in the morning, which is very late, and then you didn't eat anything until 7 p.m. It's like a very bad schedule. So we are not aware of it until we write it down. And this self observation will lead us to generate conscience and to improve our scheduling and improve our food choices. Number three, analyze which elements from your diet should change and start changing them. Number four, find your motivation. Read Sathya divine discourses on food or read scientific journals about natural resources in food. This is so important. I do this every night, without skipping it. I read divine discourse or any scientific information I care about, and this has really this has really generated a very big motivation in myself, because motivation is everything. If you are motivated, you will find the strength to change, to transform your life. Number five, try following the suggested step-by-step program, starting on number one and moving forward one number per week at your own pace, while you keep motivating yourself every day. This program, I wrote it down after 6 years or 7 years of experience of trying to help people to transform their diets. So I think this methodology is the product of talking to people and sharing their experiences and the feedback that people have given to me. So I think it's a very good methodology to follow. Number six, every time you eat, whether served on a plate or prepared for a lunchbox, remember to use the healthy eating plate as a guide. As I said, just take any plate and draw the lines. It's actually very fun. Number seven, keep reading about how to serve the planet with your food choices. Of course, everything that we read, we look at, it goes and nurtures our mind. So it's very important for us to choose to read and to see the correct information, and this will lead to change. Number eight, share with others, family, community, but only after you practice, so you can talk about your own experience. This is, of course, not about lecturing people, but this is about sharing. When you decide to transform your life and you are taking this journey, you want to embrace this experience, it's it's a very good idea to talk with others, to share with your friends, your husband, your wife, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, and say, you know, I'm doing this, I'm feeling this way, I am motivated by this, and then you will receive positive feedback, and this will help you in your journey. We should be aware of our food waste. The world hunger continues to climb while 1/3 of food produced is waste. Food waste means that the water and energy used to produce food is also wasted. So we should be aware of not throwing food away. We should be aware that in the world there is many people suffering, many people starving. So it's very important for us to eat only the necessary, to buy only the necessary, and to contaminate the less possible. So now we are about to end our webinar. Swami beautifully says to us, human life will find fulfillment only when ecological balance is maintained. Balance in human life and balance in nature, both are equally important. The food that we eat, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe are all polluted. In fact, all the 5 elements which are of utmost importance for man are polluted. So we all are seeking for fulfillment. So Swami says we need to find ecological balance between humans and nature. And when we succeed, then we will find our fulfillment. Swami also says every effort should be made to keep the human body healthy. Health is wealth. Wealth cannot be enjoyed by a person with poor health. Health is more important because it gives physical and mental strength to a person. So Swami says every effort. So when you think you've tried enough but you haven't succeeded, don't worry, just try again. We never succeed at the first when we first start. This is a journey and we should enjoy the journey. And it's a beautiful and spiritual journey that allows us to connect with our true nature and to serve ourselves and to serve others through making good food choices. And then we can live a very disciplined life. And a disciplined life is based on right conduct, and that will bring us peace and that will bring us love, just as Swami says. So it is very important for us to make put all our strength, to make every effort, every day of our lives until our last breath or last moment. We should improve every moment. We should be motivated until the last minute. So this is the webinar. Thank you all for listening, for being here, for having me. And now I want to open the Q&A session. So if there are any questions, you can just type them on the chat box or unmute your microphone. Sairam, here is the first question.
Yeah, Sairam.
Two
Actually,
questions. Oh, okay. Okay.
I want to ask just how safe it is to warm the food in the microwave.
Again, please.
How safe and how healthy it is to heat the food in the microwave.
In the microwave. Oh, okay. Okay, microwave is not the best option, but you have to understand that this is a journey. So in the journey, in the step-by-step, you have to prioritize. You have to say, this is number one. Number one is cut on meat. Number two is cut on refined sugars. Perhaps when you cut on meat, you are still heating the food in the microwave, but that is okay because you are going forward. Then as soon as you are approaching to a very, very healthy diet, then you can stop using the microwave and perhaps find another option. But at first you have to go step by step. That answering your question? Okay, so I have two questions here from Kartika. It says, number one, is kombucha good for health? It seems to be a recent entry in the market. Okay, kombucha, it depends a lot in how is it made. It also has to be alcohol free. But I would suggest that if you are drinking kombucha, you should not drink too much. Just like 200 milliliters or so, a serving per day, but not more, because it's also like very acid for the organism, for the digestive system. And number two, how to have a balanced diet without fish and eggs. How to get required omega and protein without them. Okay, the protein, there are many sources of protein. When you are switching from eating meat to not eating meat, you should eat egg and dairy at first, like milk and cheese and egg is okay. But then when you are switching to a more vegan diet, you can just use almonds, nuts, lentils, soya, tempeh, tofu as a protein source, because there are so many protein sources. And also the omega comes in the avocado and in the nuts. It comes also in the coconut. So there are other sources of omega. You just have to substitute. If you want more information, you can just write an email to me. I will be available.
Sam, Ashok here. I don't have a question, but may I just make a observation that many are very privileged to have access to different types of food, and perhaps one aspect of transforming our hearts and minds and living dharmically is sometimes learning to share our food with people around us, whether at work or at school or in the society, who are less fortunate and who may not have such easy access. So sharing the food we have is something we should give great thought to as well. Sathya.
Sairam, thank you so much.
So you said that we shouldn't use olive oil for cooking. May I ask why?
Yes, because olive oil, I'm sorry, has a very low smoke point. Smoke point means that when the oil is heated, it will turn into smoke. So olive oil is a very delicate oil, and it will turn into smoke very, very easily. So when the oil turns into smoke, it becomes a trans fat, you know? So a trans fat is very dangerous for our body. So we should never cook with olive oil. You have to cook with an oil that its smoke point is not that low. It can resist high temperatures. This is not the case of the olive oil. Olive oil cannot resist high temperatures. And actually, we should not cook with oil. This is not a very good cooking practice, because any fat will go saturated, and it will lead us to obesity and heart diseases. But if you used to cook with oil, it should be like very, very small amount of oil, and it should be coconut oil or canola oil, but never olive oil. And also, olive oil is so good in saturated fat and takes so good care of our heart if you use it just like that, like raw. So it's very important that when you are switching to a vegetarian diet, you should also consult a nutritionist and a doctor, a physician at your town, so they can guide you and give you like a very, very good, they can give you good suggestions, and they should see that you are in good health. So that's very, very important to always go to the doctor and go to the nutritionist when you are doing it, and not do it all by yourself. Are there any more questions?
Sorry, I'm Shanti. This is Ven from Canada. I just want to share first This was so informative and very timely for me. So I really appreciate you sharing all that information with us. And thank you for the team for making this possible. I'm also happy to know the chat box wasn't working because I thought I was alone, but I wasn't. So my question is, I'm trying to be very cautious about the food that or being more mindful about what I eat, because I'm always looking at, is my energy going to go up? Is my energy going to go down? And I've noticed, for example, when I eat dairy, my food, like my energy goes down, but when I eat ginger, my energy goes really up and I feel more clear. So I was wondering if you could speak more to ginger, because I'm trying to figure out like where else can I incorporate ginger in my life, and perhaps if there's other foods you recommend that are conducive to helping people be high in energy.
Okay, sure. Ginger is a very, very good option. To all my patients, I always suggest a ginger tea, actually. I combined red tea. In Mexico, it's called Jamaica. It's a flower. So the flower of Jamaica, you just make tea with this flower and you incorporate ginger. And when you drink a cup of this tea in the morning, you will find yourself full of energy, and it's very, very invigorating. Also, like the tea in the morning is one of the best practices because it takes care of your digestive system and of your heart, and also lowers stress. So if there are not many meals where you can incorporate ginger, you could just take a ginger tea every morning, and this will help a lot.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sairan, I have 3 points, please, that I would like to ask, if possible.
Yeah, sure.
This is Brigitte Kashtan from Israel, a Zone 6 Envirocare coordinator. I've been a vegetarian for 2/3 of my life, which is 43 years out of 66. And there are I thank you very much for all your beautiful and inspiring presentation. There are 3 things that surprised me, and I would like to check if I understood you well. The first thing is that I had always understood that we should not eat fruits together with meals. That is the first question.
Okay, when you are turning into a very vegan diet or a raw vegan diet, then fruits become very important because fruits are turning into fat acids. This is like a very, very amazing, because you never think that you could obtain fatty acids from fruits, but you actually can. And they are like the best fatty acids ever. But for that, you should cut on meat and cut on dairy, because meat and dairy won't let your microbiota in your intestine, in your small intestine, to turn the sugar of the fruit into a fatty acid, and to take all these probiotics into the bloodstream. All these nutrients and probiotics, yes, to go into the bloodstream. So you should not eat fruits with the meals when you are in a raw vegan diet. Otherwise, fruits will only represent fiber and sugar. And if this is the case, you can eat them normally.
Okay, thank you. And second question, I was surprised about what I understood that you said about dinner time. I always heard that it's best to eat early, a few hours before going to sleep. And the Ayurveda encourages not to eat after sunset. And I understood that you said that it's good to have a dinner like 20 minutes before going to sleep. Did I understand you right?
Yes, as I said, this is a step-by-step program. So when you are beginning, when you are just initiating these practices, you could just follow my suggestion of eating half the plate and 20 or 30 minutes before going to bed. But when you have some experience in vegetarianism, and you are going through a discipline and you're having a very good diet, then what you said is true. We should not eat after sunset. That is actually true, but that is like the last step. So
all right.
we are both right. It's just that I was talking in the beginning of the journey, and you are almost at the end of the journey.
Well, not sure about that, but thank you anyway. And the third question is about the microwave, answering our brother here. I always heard and read that microwave is really bad and that it kills the cells. Actually, it makes the cells explode. So it's just like eating dead food, so to say.
Yes, that is actually true. As I said, when we are going through the steps, because I share my experience with you, when people is cutting on meat, you can only do one thing at a time. Most people want to cut on meat and cut on dairy and cut on processed foods and cut on refined sugar, and then this becomes a lot, you know, and then you have to cook for yourself and you want to eat fresh food and you don't want to heat anything in the microwave and you don't want to have cereal from cereal boxes. So if you try to do everything at the same time, it's not that it's impossible, of course it's not, but perhaps it will be harder. So here in Mexico, many people fail when they want to go through all the steps at once. So I just say, just take it easy, just go through one step. If it's very important for you, it's actually very important. There are many scientific studies about that. The microwave is not a good choice, but some people here in Mexico, they bring food to their work and they don't have anywhere to heat it. So they asked me, and I said, yes, of course, if you don't have anywhere to heat it, just heat it in a microwave. But they cut on meat, they cut on refined sugars, and with the time, they find a way of not heating in the microwave. So you see, if you are going step by step, you say it's okay to heat the food somehow. But if you are going further, if you say, okay, I already cut on meat, cut on refined sugars, I'm not, I cut on dairy, and then you are like in the microwave step, then of course you should not heat the food in the microwave. It's not that I said that it's good heating the food in the microwave, it's not. But what I'm saying is just go step by step. Is
Yes,
that
very
answering
well.
your question?
Yes, very well. Thank you. I think you're absolutely right about going by step by step. I just wanted to share one last thing that many years ago there was a book called Transition to Vegetarianism, published at the Himalayan Institute for those who wish to read more, you know, have the time and patience to read more details. It was a very good, one of the first books talking about that. Transition to Vegetarianism, I just see it now. It's possible to find it on Google.
Thank you so much. One more question, please.
Thyram, sister, I had two questions from my end. It was related to I actually live a bachelor life in Saudi Arabia, and we cook our food for 2 or 3 weeks regularly like this. I wanted to know how safe is it recook the food again and again for 2 or 3 times and consume safe, or we should stop such kind of activities, right?
Yes, I understand about the bachelor life. Of course, you have to cook one day. You cannot cook every day. So what I suggest is, yes, I understand that. Is what I suggest is that you should always have fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. That's what I suggest. If you are heating up, I don't know, rice or something you just cooked 1 or 2 days ago, it's okay. Just take the vegetables and the fruit and make half of your plate to be raw and to be fresh, and that will do. Like that will be enough for a while. Then, with the time, you will um, you will develop some more skills, and you will see how to cook a very small meal like every day. You know. But just for now, you could just take half of your plate, like it shows the drawing, like the Harvard plate, and put some fruits and vegetables, and that will be good enough just for now.
Okay, okay. I had one more question. It's something like I have heard about eating raw vegetables, like in the meals regularly like this, instead of having rice and all, skipping the carbohydrates and going for raw vegetables. What would be your suggestion? Like, can we increase the raw vegetable share maybe to 70% and use the carbohydrate share to 30% like this?
Okay, if you want to be a raw vegan, this is a very this is not an easy process. So as I said before, you have to go to a nutritionist and to a doctor, so they can help you and make the check-ins in your body. So first, vegetables, they do not have carbohydrates, only potatoes, but they do not have carbohydrates. Actually, vegetables, they have a very few amount of energy. They provide us minerals and fiber and micronutrients, enzymes, digestive enzymes or vitamins, but they do not provide energy. So if you are eating only vegetables, you will not have energy to perform activities. You have to eat carbohydrates. This is a must because many people think they can just cut on carbohydrates, but that is not so. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy. So we need carbohydrates for our DNA replication. We need carbohydrates for everything because we need carbohydrates to combine the breaking down sugar process has to combine with the respiration process, and that brings us energy, and that allows us to perform every activity. So you can switch to healthier carbohydrates, which will be fruits. If you want to be a strict raw vegan, you should have carbohydrates in fruits, and that will be it. But never cut on carbohydrates. It's very difficult to do that, so I suggest you take it like very slowly at your own pace, because also your body has to adapt. Your body, your intestine now has not the ability to take the nutrients, all the nutrients from raw vegetables and fruits. So this is a very slow process. When people turn into a raw vegan, all of a sudden they start feeling sick. So I suggest not to do it like that. Just do it with the time as the body allows us to do it.
Sister Shanti,
So,
I have a question about your comment about milk. You mentioned that instead of regular milk, we should avoid also almond milk and instead have coconut or soya milk. My situation is, well, I stopped regular milk. I've been drinking almond milk, but I've heard that soya is not good for men, too much soya because of the estrogen level, if I'm not mistaken. And the other thing is I'm allergic to coconut. So I'm trying to figure out what's my best option for like milk intake.
Oh, okay. Almond milk, we just recently learned, like Sister Regina, Kalai, and also Brother Jajesh, we learned that almond milk has a very high impact. So that is why we're not suggesting it, high environmental impact. Soy milk, it doesn't have estrogens. What soy milk does is that it is helping us with our hormone production, our natural hormone production. So it's not that it has estrogen inside, but it helps women to produce estrogens, and it helps men to produce testosterone. You know, like it helps one body to produce its natural hormones. Okay, so it's not that it's bad for men. That is not true. You could use oat milk. Also, oat milk is a very good choice. But yes, while you're figuring out, you could just continue using almond milk and just try for other milks until you feel good and satisfied.
Well, thank you for demystifying soya milk. I wasn't aware it was actually good for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Sairam. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Thank you, Sister Shanti, for answering all the questions. So thanks everyone for joining, and we will end with 3 Shantis. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.